Hi, welcome to hey. Hi, welcome to Whitey White Guy Show. I'm Whitey, and today I'm going to review the film DeadPool, which came out in 2016, I believe, starring Ryan Reynolds and pretty much nobody I recognize. Um, the film is set in the X-Men universe, but it centers around the character Deadpool. That comes from a comic book source. I'm not a comics book guy. I'm not terribly familiar, so I'm going to review this as a guy who doesn't know a whole lot about it because I don't. The film starts with a character named Wade Wilson, played by Ryan Reynolds, and he's some kind of ex special forces. This is an origin story. You start from the beginning. The details are very thin. It's very fast moving, but he was in special forces of some nature. Got discharged for some reason, and then after his military career, he became a mercenary of some sort. And the only example they give you is like he goes to a dude's house and orders a pizza from the dude's house, who you know nothing about either of these guys. And then the pizza dude shows up and he's like, "You got to stop harassing this girl or stalking this girl." So he was hired by a teenage girl. So he's a mercenary, and the only example they give you that is he's prevents a stalker. So he's a mercenary with a heart of gold of sorts. He's not perfect, but he's not like a mercenary that does bad things for bad people kind of deal. He then meets a woman who he falls in love with, and there's a guy played by a comedian named T.J. Miller who's a bartender, who's kind of like his sidekick of sorts, helps him out from time to time. And so he falls in love with this woman. They have a lot of great sex, and then literally the next scene, he gets diagnosed with terminal cancer. He's got cancer all up and down his organs and in his brain. He's going to die. Um, in his desperation, he's approached by a man that, as I recall, is only referred to as Agent Smith, as a reference to uh, the Matrix films, because he kind of looks like the Agent Smith guy, I suppose. And Agent Smith guy tells him about this, I don't know, organization, company, whatever, that can not only cure his cancer but turn him into a superhero. So he red flags all over the place, but in desperation, he goes in on this. He's going to die. He's going to lose the love of his wife. Understandable. And it's run by the Ajax character from the X-Men universe, um, and a henchman who's like a powerful lady. And they both went through this experiment, this process that you put somebody, you up their adrenaline basically through torture, that makes any mutant cells they may have in their DNA mutate and give you whatever powers you may get. The one lady who's the henchman character, she gets really strong. It's not really made clear too much. Again, it's like a lot of details fast. We're covering a lot of information quickly. But there's one scene where she like jumps off a high point and does the superhero landing. So it's like, okay, are you just powerful, or you can survive explosions? Like, what do you got? And then the Ajax character says that the mutation gave him enhanced reflexes, but also destroyed his nerve endings, so he doesn't feel anything. But there's a point where he gets like a samurai sword through the midsection. He gets impaled, but he's fine. So it's like it's not really clear what powers everybody has in this. Ryan Reynolds gets mutated where, like, there's one bit where he's shot in the arm and then the hole starts to clear up, kind of like Wolverine. But he runs around two samurai swords and two pistols, and he's shooting people up. It's kind of vague, like what their powers are exactly. But the organization is an evil organization, as you find out, who, while they cure his cancer, they accidentally cure him of like anything. Nothing can kill him. If you cut off his legs grow back. At one point, he cuts off his hand grows back. It just takes some time. And you can shoot him 20 times. Again, it's kind of vague. You can kind of slow him down, but you can't stop him, kind of thing. So he's stuck in this lab, I suppose. Manages to escape. His girlfriend slash wife slash fiance thinks he's dead. The bad guys think he's dead. He goes to his bartender sidekick buddy for some help, and then ends up rooming with the blind black lady. And they're kind of his buddies, like, helping him out fight crime. Um, and then he kills a shit ton of guys on a bridge, captures the Ajax character, and then right then Colossus and Teenage Mutant Warhead from the X-Men universe show up in the jet thing, and they stop him from killing the guy, and then inadvertently, while they're talking it over, the bad guy Ajax, he escapes, and so Ryan Reynolds cuts off his own hand to escape. He has to heal up, and then the bad guys capture his wife slash girlfriend, fiance, and he has to go to kill the bad guy and save the girl, and that's exactly what happens. Spoilers, I guess. This is not a thinker of a movie, so it's like there's no twist. There's not a lot of depth to anything. That's not a criticism. This is a film that's set out to be the Ryan Reynolds character and the Ryan Reynolds and the character Deadpool. The Deadpool character is a very smarty, witty, charismatic, funny guy. He's got a really cool looking. He's got a good look for anything, and he's got two samurai swords, two pistols. The whole objective is give him a reason to blast away a lot of bad guys and make a bunch of witty comments while he does it, and be a fun action shoot 'em up, not twist your brain to figure out. So he's gonna kill the bad guy and get the girl. You know that from the beginning of the film. There's no spoiler there. So this film, what did I think of Deadpool? First off, I don't even know who directed it. I'm not gonna look this shit up, but it looks fine. It's a good looking film for 2016. There's a lot of CG. Colossus is purely CG, and they did a good job of mixing the CG with the practicals pretty seamlessly. There's no huge, oh my god, that looked awful. It's like, that looks pretty good. I saw it on a laptop. I would kind of wish I saw it in theaters because it certainly would have been more impressive there. The big fight, for whatever reason, takes place on like a big destroyer that's dilapidated and falling apart, and that's where the bad guy is. So you have this big, huge set, and at one point all the shit's falling off of that. I'm sure that looked impressive as shit in the theaters. But I didn't see that there. I saw it on the laptop, so it still looked cool, but I wish I'd seen it in theater. The music is kind of hokey. They pull on a white rapper dude, Marshall Mathers or somebody, whatever his name is, that actually wrote some songs for the sake of the movie, I think. Some rap tunes. It was neither here nor there. It was a take it or leave it. The acting is fine. Ryan Reynolds was born for this role. I like the guy who plays Ajax. I like the guy who plays the villain. And one interesting aspect of the film is that the hero and the villain are very comparably matched. These are not two big, huge, muscular dudes. They got tone, and then they're light and quick. So it's more about a speed and agility kind of thing. He's the bad guy isn't like a boring old bad guy. He's British, but he's like very confident in himself and has his own. He gets in his own quick jokes and stuff, one-liners. So it's like they're the yin and the yang. They're the polar opposite of the morality spectrum, but they're very similar in their capabilities and personality in some ways. And I thought that was really interesting. You then have the lady who's the bad guy's henchman, who's like Muscles, and then Colossus is Muscles, and they're fighting each other while Deadpool and Ajax are fighting each other. So they're all comparably matched. One of the problems is in the last fight scene is Deadpool's slicing and dicing through the bad guys, and then Teenage Mutant Warhead, whatever her name is, she's kind of out of place at times. There's actually a crack in the film where Ryan Reynolds says, "I only see the two of you. It's like the studio couldn't afford more X-Men." And so it kind of leaves her out. Like Wade Wilson clears through the bulk of the bad guys. The teenage girl does do some help, but then she goes to fuck offville for a while, and then she's back. And it's like, where'd you just go? So they didn't have that, you got Deadpool, you got Ajax, you got Colossus, you got Muscles Lady, you got Teenage Mutant Warhead, or whatever the fuck her name is, and then nobody. So it would be nice if there was like a third villain character that had comparable capabilities to hers that she could be fighting, and instead she just disappears at times. And then she's back when the script calls for it. That's not a huge criticism or anything, but it's like a six-leg table that's missing a leg. The table still stands, but it's kind of unbalanced. And so it's like, hey, if you just had one more character there that she could be doing fisticuffs with, I think it would have worked a little better. Um, but again, aside from that, the acting is good. It looks good. The writing in terms of structure, tone, pacing, any individual scene, I thought worked really well. The Ajax character, very charismatic villain that always makes the film a lot more fun. He's not a dolt. He's not an idiot. He's a capable villain, and that makes life more interesting for Deadpool to go up against him. Um, this is a film that set out to make a certain type of film, and it succeeded in that film. It's a fun, shoot 'em up, action packed kind of film. You know, it's not Seven. It's not I don't know Gattaca. It's fun. It's not you don't need your brain for nothing. So they set out to make a certain type of film, and they succeeded in making that type of film. It's not perfect. I think this is a film that if this came, it does feel dated at times. So one thing it has is that it has that Judd Apatow. They'll have the structure of what somebody's going to say, but they let them riff. So at one point when Deadpool reemerges, so to say, and his buddy at the bar sees his burnt up looking face for the first time, it was mutated while he was in the thing. Go watch the movie. And there's outtakes you can find on YouTube. I guess you call them outtakes, where he's just riffing. He's like, "You look like an avocado fucked another avocado," but it was like an angry sex and all this stuff, and it goes on. And then there's another take where he's like, "You look like a toilet ate a beaver or something." It just riffs for a while, and they take the best one. It's that kind of style for a number of things in the movie. Someone play my hair out. And it feels a little dated. It feels like 2005, very Judd Apatow. You get some funny stuff out of that, but I think that the character, the guy that got to play him, T.J. Miller, I got one or two yucks out of the guy, and they put him in there like he's hilarious, and I didn't think he was that funny. Excuse me. Wasn't bad, but it's like it felt like he was placed in there to be a 10, and he's like more of a 4. Teenage Mutant Warhead something? I can't remember her name. She does a fine job, and you have to, she's the typical feminist. She's got like a buzz haircut, modern era teenager. You got to put her in there because it's the times that we live in. If this was the 60s and 70s, that would have been a hippie chick. It's now, so it's an angry feminist chick. So I guess you got to put her in there, and the actress did a fine job with the role. But again, it was kind of, they got Ryan Reynolds. That it worked at times because Ryan Reynolds is the funny cut up, and she's very sitting there all angry and pouty, and he got some funny yucks out of that. But I wasn't a big fan of the character. Colossus is a lot of fun in this movie. I enjoyed him. The villains, and this is a case of Ryan Reynolds again, born to do it, but it's Van Wilder. I've seen this before, and that's kind of a problem with the film. It's Van Wilder. I remember that 20 years ago, and it was Van Wilder, and now again. So he's entertaining, but it's like I've seen this, and so Colossus is kind of fun, but kind of bland. Teenage Warhead, kind of a turd. I like the villains. So this is another one of those. The heroes are a little too goody two shoes. Colossus is very. There's one part where he's fighting a muscles lady, and as they're coming out of some like car wreckage and shit, her tits look exposed with her bra, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to see that." Arrow. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's very nice of you." Then punches the guy, and it's kind of like too dry. It works at times. Everything about this film works at times, and then doesn't work at times. But the good guys were too goody two shoes, too clean cut, too heroic, and the bad guys were too villains for the sake of being villains. They never. You don't really have to get into your villain's rationale for what they're doing, but give me a little something as to why he's doing what he's doing, and they didn't really. They tell you what he's doing, but why is he doing it? And they left that one out. Um, so it's a matter of taste. They set out to make a film. They made that film. If you enjoy that genre, this is a good example of this. You know, you make a plate of spaghetti. If you like spaghetti, this is a good plate of spaghetti. If you don't like spaghetti, I don't like chili, for example. It's mostly the kidney beans. I actually like the taste and the meat, but kidney beans, I'm like, ugh. So somebody be like, "Hey, I just made a wonderful plate of spaghetti." I'm like, "Does it have kidney beans?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, I don't care if that's the best plate of chili or a shit plate of chili. It's gonna taste the same to me." And this film is kind of that. If you like chili, this is a really well made plate of chili. If you don't like chili, you're not gonna like this film. And keeping with the allegory or analogy or metaphor, I think I said like, so it's an analogy. If you take out the kidney beans, it's a good plate of chili. If you were to take out a few things or change a few things about this movie, I'd really like this movie. But again, it feels a little circa 2005, 2006 in some of its style. It feels like it came around a little too late. And if you're familiar with Wolverine Origins, which was a turd of a film, they had Ryan Reynolds play Deadpool in that. And I liked that character in that movie. And I was like, get me that. The rest of this movie, I like a few of the different characters and stuff. Hugh Jackman's a great Wolverine. I did not like that film. And I'm like, man, this Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool, that should be a film in and of itself. And it should have been. I know it is. But it's like, you waited 10 years. Had you done that 2 years after Origins, I think this would have been phenomenal. But it suffers a bit from I've seen it. You know, I'm sorry, but it's Van Wilder. I've seen it. The good guy kills the bad guy, gets the girl. I've seen it. And so again, they set out to make a plate of chili, and this is a good plate of chili. I'm not a fan of kidney beans. So some of this I liked if you could take out the kidney beans, if that makes sense. So as a whole, I'm not a big fan of this film. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. There's some things, again, I thought the actor who played Ajax crushed it. I was cheering for that guy. He does horrible shit, but he's such a good actor, gave such a good performance. I was cheering for him. His primary henchman, Muscles Lady, she was there. Okay. When her and Colossus were going at it, I thought they got some good quips out of that. So it was like, as you go from scene to scene, this part worked good, this part works good, this part's kidney beans. You follow me? So it wasn't perfect. Some people love this film, and again, it was overdue. They needed to make a Deadpool film. I'm glad they made a Deadpool film. I'm glad Ryan Reynolds got to make it. He was born for it. There's a lot in it that I enjoy, is well done, but I wasn't 100% behind it. And one of the problems I had was like, again, it's a style chase. It's a style choice. Do you like chili? So when he's hot knifing through all these henchmen that you don't even get to know, you don't know who they are, they're just there. He's running around just blasting through people in like a montage going, "Where's Francis? Where's Francis?" with the bad guy. So his plan is he's going to start at the bottom and work his way up through Francis's network of bad dudes, wipe out everybody until he finds Francis. But there's one point where a dude comes behind him and puts like 6 rounds in him, and he just turns around and then slices through the guy. So it's like you can slow him down, kinda. You can't stop him. So there's no tension there, and there's nothing interesting about the henchmen. They're kind of all just, they come from different nationalities and they're wearing different outfits. There's one guy who's got some muscles, and he pulls up his sleeves, and Ryan Reynolds is like, really pulling up the sleeves, and then just skewers the guy with the katanas. And I'm like, if you found that hysterical, or you just want to see a dude slicing and dicing through people, this is your movie. It's a good plate of chili. But I'm like, there's nothing they can do to you. So there's no tension there. And I'm just like, when does this thing get over with? Maybe I'm just getting too old for this shit. 14-year-old me would have loved this. 22-year-old me in college would have loved this. I'm guessing. But no, again, I'm sorry, but I'm just like, I remember when they did this in this movie. I remember when he said that in that movie. And then there's a sequel. I'll cover it a bit because it's not as good as this one. This one's okay. I was okay with it. I'm not saying it's a bad film. Uh, the, the sequel is, but this one's okay. But there's a bit in the sequel where a guy, Colossus, says, something, something, you come with me. And both the dude and then Deadpool, like, you took that from Robocop. And it's like, a lot of this shit came from other movies. So, if it's a reference, cool, but it's like, I've seen it before. I don't know what else to tell you. So, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. A lot of people were really happy with this film, and I made a comment just watching a YouTube video before I stole the movie on Pirate Bay and watched it, and I wrote, this looks like shit, and it did, but it was a clip. So, one thing that happens, but people came after me, like, he's son of a bitches, and I'm like, it doesn't look that hot. But one thing that happens is when he's slicing and dicing through the henchmen, you don't have a motivation for why you're cheering for him. You don't have a reason why you hate these guys. Once you see what they're part of and what Ajax is doing, you're like, okay, fuck them up. And so that's missing from the YouTube clips. So once Ajax does some really evil shit to him, and it's not just Deadpool, it's a lot of guys. So he's bringing in people who are dying of cancer, or dying of this, and experimenting on it. It's like a Nazi experiment kind of thing. And then you're like, okay, kill that fucker. That's an evil dude. But in the YouTube clips, you don't have that yet. So you're like, oh, those poor guys. So it is, of course, a film. You watch it from start to finish. It's a better film than I initially had an impression of. But it's still, again, I don't like kidney beans. I don't like everything they had in here. But some of it was good. I like the meat. I like the sauce. If you could take out the kidney beans, take out these few things I didn't care for, it's actually pretty good. Get some crackers in there, down a little Pepsi or something, some potato chips, you're all right. So there was some stuff in there I didn't care for, and there was some stuff in there that was missing. So it wasn't perfect, but it wasn't awful. But one thing too about this film, it just has a very liberal-leaning kind of texture to it, and I just like, God, I'm so sick of like feminism and hate men. There's a bit where he calls Mr. Smith character a pedophile a couple times, or implies that he looks like a pedophile or something, and I'm like, it's in every fucking movie now. Just like everything has to have a man-hate feel to it, and then it implies that when he finally catches the guy, he neuters him, he cuts off his little piggy went to the market. I'm assuming that's his penis, and I'm just like, every film the bad guy loses his junk, and it's like you can only see it so many times. You can only until you just don't care anymore. It's like, okay, hate men, communism good, girl power. I can only see that so many times and give a fuck. And so if like this came out 10 years earlier, I would have been all over it, but it didn't. It came out now, and so it's kind of meh. So that's my review of Deadpool. Not a bad film, not a great film. I'm glad they made a Deadpool film. He was due. Deadpool had his due. God damn it! So I'm glad it's there. But I had my qualms. So if you haven't seen Deadpool, I would generically recommend it to people. It is going to depend a little bit. It's a comic book film. Is that your thing? Do you want to? It's He's got a couple of katanas. He's slicing and dicing to the bad guys. He's got a couple of pistols. Pop, 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 pop. It's an action shoot 'em up with some comedy in it. If that's your thing, man, this is a movie for you. If you're like, I need to go watch Mindwalk and Gattaca, fill in the blank intellectual film, this ain't it. But generically, I'd say go check it out. It's a fair film. So that's it from White Guy Show. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your enemies, and word to your mother. Oh, good journey.